When I was in the 8th grade, I took just a regular trip to the dentist. Little did I know it would turn into the day that I almost died. I went up to the dentist in the morning just to get a simple filling done. When my dentist started to do my filling, she actually ended up giving me 13 shots of Novocaine because it wasn't kicking in. As I went to leave the dentist and the Novocaine started wearing off, I started feeling really, really sick and just kind of fatigued and didn't really know what was going on. I got in the car with my mom, and as we're going back to my house, she asked me why I sounded like Kermit the Frog, and I wasn't really sure why, but I knew something was going on. And that's when I told her that all of a sudden, like, my chest started hurting, and I felt like I was choking. Once I got back to my house, my mom called the dentist and called the doctor and called the hospital and asked them what was going on, and they thought that maybe I was just having some sort of reaction to the Novocaine or something I ate. So I tried taking Benadryl, I tried sleeping, I tried just laying down, but it just kept getting worse and worse. And later on through the day, my throat kept closing more and more, like I was choking, and like the breath would come in, but it just came out right away. Eventually it got later on into the night, and I ended up
sounding like Stevie from Malcolm in the Middle. So I was trying to ask my mom questions, and I was gasping in and trying to talk and gasping in and trying to talk, and nothing was working. It got to be about 11 o'clock at night, and my mom was finally just like, fine, whatever, we'll go. And she was yelling at me, and my mom's like this tall but yells like a trucker, like she's the craziest lady ever. So we finally went to the hospital, and on the way there I started hyperventilating and couldn't breathe and just started freaking out because I thought I was actually dying. When we got to the hospital, we got all checked in, I sat in the lobby, and the first guy that came in was just this insane looking guy who looked like he just came off the streets. And he came in limping and holding his arm and was like screaming. And he pulled up his sleeve and goes, I got shot! And they immediately grabbed him and ran him into the other room. And I still kept sitting there, constantly choking and trying to breathe. Then the second guy that came in holding his crotch and was all bloody, like all over. And he looked like this big old burly bug. And he looked around and let go of his crotch, and then you could tell that he had cut his thumb, and his thumb was barely just dangling there and was just sitting there. So they took him and put him in the bathroom to get the blood and whatever cleaned up. It was nasty. Then the third guy that came in, who just topped the rest of them all, came in with a cup in his eye with his hand, and he walked up to the desk, and he looked pretty spiffy, but he seemed a little bit intoxicated, like something was going on. He had on a super nice business suit and kind of stumbled up to the counter and had his hand over his eyes. And when the nurse asked what was wrong, he put his hand down and his eyeball was laying in his hand, but was still actually connected, but was just hanging out of his eye socket. They brought him ahead of me too. So I'm sitting there still choking and still can't breathe, and they're putting all these people ahead of me. Finally, when my nurse came out and called my name, I looked straight at her and I was like, you have got to be kidding me. And she looked straight up like Malibu Barbie. She had the bleach blonde hair, talked all prissy. She even had on like these like wedge heel shoes and brought me into the back room. And the first thing she says to me is, hi, I'm new. Which, that's not the thing you really want to hear when you think you're dying. Once we got into the room, she went to give me my IV test. But when she was trying, she couldn't find the vein. So she actually ended up moving up my arm and trying to put in my elbow. Once she actually got it in the vein, she realized that the stopper wasn't on the end of the tube. So when she got the IV in, it started squirting blood all over me and all over my room. And it was like all over the floor. It was like hitting me in the face and everything. So I'm sitting there completely choking because I can't breathe and I still don't know what's going on. And the IV's squirting blood everywhere. And my nurse ran out of the room. Just completely disappeared and ran out of the room. So we ended up having to flag down a doctor to come in because we didn't know where my nurse went. She was just gone. And once the doctor came in, closed off my IV, he figured out I was having an allergic reaction, and we assumed it was from the Novocaine. So all they did simply was shoot some epinephrine down my IV, and I was fine in 20 minutes. I was good to go. Once the doctor had done a little analysis to make sure that I was okay to go, he looked at my throat to see how far it had closed because of the inflammation. And he had actually told me that if I would have came 2 hours later than when I was there, that I probably would have suffocated and died. We left the hospital at about 3 a.m. and I finally got home, and I still held it against my mom that I could have died if she wouldn't have brought me there. And even though I still would have died, still to this day my mom won't bring me to the hospital even if I am dying.